What's up YouTube, I'm Mike, and today I'm back with just sort of an overall update video. I haven't shot a video in about a week or so. Last video was on October the 9th, going over my no testosterone cycle. So basically, I'm just going to shoot one video covering my cut that I've been on for 6 weeks now, and the no testosterone cycle that I forget how long I'm into. It's been a while. Let me see if I never prepare, you know, like I sit down in front of this camera to talk. So I started my no testosterone cycle week 1 update was September the 14th. So we've got about 5 weeks on no T, and I just finished the 6th week of my cut. So that's basically the time frame we're working with. So first up, let's talk about the cut. I started at 214 pounds, and over the course of the last 6 weeks, I've cut down to 196. I'm at a stage in my cut where, 1, I'm tired of it. 2, my midsection, I don't think is getting substantially cleaner as I cut weight. There's still, I still have a little something in my love handles in my lower back. Substantially less than normal. My size 32 pants actually have like a slight bit of room in them. So I went from not being able to wear them at all to being able to get into them to be able to basically comfortably wear them. I've got cuts in my legs that I've never seen before. The vascularity in my arms, this lighting is terrible for showing this kind of stuff, but the vascularity in, if I get the camera to focus off my eyeballs, in my forearm, basically just all over my body, I'm covered in veins. I just posted an update video showing what I look like. Of course, 197s in the morning, so it's probably closer to 200 in the gym. But this is what I'm looking like at 197. The thing that's really remarkable to me, and what kind of can form like the majority of the mind fuck that goes into cutting, especially when you're somebody like me who basically perma-bulks, because I never really get fat. Like, I have 6-pack abs year round. So I can always flex and make them visible. The only real variation of my physique from month to month, even if I'm in like the dirtiest of all bulks, is just how clean they are, how deep they are. You can always see them when I flex. Right now, I've gotten to a point that I really, really like, which is like my wife was looking at a video that I was being stupid, and I recorded myself doing yard work just because, and posted it to Instagram. And my wife was watching one of the videos that I shot, and she was like, "Are you flexing your abs right there?" And I'm like, "No, baby, that's all me. That's just me just walking around now." And that was the goal of this cut. The goal of this cut was to get to 6 visible abs basically at rest, where that exact situation would occur, where I could just be standing in the front yard and, you know, some neighbor would drive by and I would have 6-pack abs. That was the objective, and that's what I've reached. It took getting down to about 200 pounds, 198 in the morning or so, to have that effect really come in. I suspect that if I continue cutting deeper, which I could do, and I'm not saying that I'm not, but right now I'm taking sort of maybe a week of like refeeding. I know that, you know, competitive bodybuilders, when they're like in 16-week preps, they'll have like a refeed day where they go up on their carbs above their cutting carbs. I'm probably gonna go into like a maintenance mode for 1 week and then reassess. See how my body reacts to it, see how I feel, see how my gym performance is. If I start immediately losing abs for some reason, then I would suspect that I'm not actually in a maintenance, I'm in surplus. It's really very easy for me to not be in a surplus. So in fact, in order to go into maintenance calories, I will almost certainly have to go back to at probably a minimum of 5 milligrams of MK677 per day. So I will probably have to go back on a appetite stimulant just to stay in maintenance calories, because this is the degree to which I do not like eating. I've talked about this ad nauseum on this channel. If left to my own devices, I just shrivel up. So I think though that I'm at a point where I don't really think that I'm likely to get much leaner than I am right now. That's the second factor. So the second factor and why I'm deciding to pause this cut is while I think that I can get somewhat leaner by continuing to restrict calories, I think that the look that I would really like ideally want is not likely to occur without some type of diuretics or lowering my estrogen level or doing something to get to like an unhuman amount of what's the word, like dehydrated state. Like I would need to take water off of my frame, which is a condition that I'm not going to be able to maintain. So I'm afraid that what I have envisioned, which is basically like, Joe Aesthetics, or like I just got through watching the Olympia and I was shocked. Like, I mean, these guys are in phenomenal condition, but I just don't think that there's a substantial amount. I don't think I'm carrying a substantial amount of body fat anymore. It's very hard for me to find anything to pin. I have a tiny little a bit of body fat right here. You can see if I pinch, there's some thickness, which honestly, if this disappears, I'm gonna have no place to put GH and peptides, but everywhere else, it's getting really, 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 really lean. And I don't think that there is much, I don't know, like I've never been, 4% or whatever, so I don't know, maybe somebody's gonna tell me I'm wrong, but I think that there's not a tremendous amount of body fat left, that primarily what I'm carrying is, subcutaneous water. And so I'm not going to go into a state, dehydrating using diuretics or something to get into like more of a staged like condition is not sustainable. And I have no desire to do it. So I'm just going to pause the cut for about a week and then reassess. See what my body looks like in a week. See what I feel like. I'm probably going to use a small amount of MK to get into maintenance calories and then reassess. If my physique puffs back up, which I still think right now, like I just got through doing shoulders and arms, and I feel like I've been able to maintain a really good amount of fullness, and I think my muscles I don't think I look deflated. I think that my muscles look very full and very athletic looking, despite the fact that I've just lost 17 pounds. So I lost 17 pounds in 6 weeks. And I have not lost any dimensions, measurable dimensions. I think my wife, maybe there was like a 1/4 inch somewhere, like maybe around my shoulders or something. I don't recall, but more or less, I have maintained all my shoulder dimensions, my chest dimensions, my bicep dimensions, what I primarily measure. Those dimensions have all held while losing 17 pounds of body fat, water, whatever. So I'm gonna see what my body looks like at the end of the week after pushing a bunch of more carbs into the system, see if I can fill out even more with replenishing glycogen, maybe a little bit of a rebound effect. And as long as my abs stay nice and clean, then I might just stay in maintenance for a while. The fall in Texas is basically my favorite part of the year. So far, I've not been getting eaten alive when I'm out walking, working the yard. I decided again this year. I used to do this every year, and then when I got heavy into bodybuilding, I gave it up. I cannot stand being outdoors in, basically like from June to October, Texas is a wrap. Like I never leave. I leave the house to go straight to whatever I have to do, and then I immediately get inside. There's no part of me that wants to be outside after over 95 degrees. And so finally, we're getting days that are below that, and so I've overseeded my Bermuda grass with ryegrass, with perennial ryegrass. So that's my favorite part of the year. I love being out in the yard, being outside when it's sunny and like 55, 65 degrees, doing yard work. That's basically, like I was saying on Instagram the other day, a lot of guys get cut to go to the beach. I get cut to look good in front of my neighbors. There's this lady that lives at the end of the street, and she loves to hit on me. It's unbelievable. She knows I'm married, and I was out walking the other day, and she pulled up and stopped and rolled her window down. She says, "Boy, you're gonna cause somebody to have a car accident." She's a sweet lady, but that's what I live for. So going to the beach has been a total downer for me. Every time I've gone to a water park or beach, I go to see amazing beach bodies, and all I see are a bunch of beached whales. It's disgusting. I remember going to Miami to South Beach with my family. We've been to South Beach more than once. And we've been to all the beaches in Miami. I mean, all the beaches in Florida. And it's just disgusting. Like, I thought, I thought South Beach, Miami was like the home of the best bodies on earth, and holy God, is it far from that. So I like to be in good shape for the fall because that's when I spend the most time outdoors topless. As to my estrogen levels, the second part of this video is going to be going into the fact that I am now 5 weeks off tea. This is my voice, 5 weeks off tea. Everything with my no testosterone cycle has continued to work better than I could have imagined. I'm having no psychological issues. I'm having no physical issues. Honestly, the other thing I was saying to my wife, I've said this before on my channel, my body does not seem to like to be bigger than 200 pounds. Every time I get over 200 pounds, and the further over 200 pounds I get, the more labored my breathing becomes. Just everything, just carrying that weight is uncomfortable. I don't feel healthy. My cardiovascular performance suffers majorly. And maybe that's just in part because I'm usually more sedentary when I'm bulking like that because I'm doing nothing but eating and lifting. But like 6 weeks ago when I started my cut, and my wife and I would go for walks around the neighborhood. If you walk around, you can walk a circle around my house based on the way the roads are laid out. And one circle around the house is about a third of a mile. It's like a tiny hair less. I think it's like 0.31 miles. So it's about a third of a mile. And 6 weeks ago when I first started doing our walks, man, I would get 1 or 2 laps and I was feeling it. Like more often than not, I might make 2 laps and then I would have to come in and get some carbs and sit down, and I was not feeling it. Now I could just routinely go out, walk 1.5 miles or 2, and it's totally fine. So I don't know whether that's just from improved cardio. It's not really cardio, but whatever. I don't know if it's improved cardiovascular performance just because I'm being less sedentary and I've actually been walking every day, or if it's because as my body fat percentage has come down and I'm now no longer obese. Remember, at 210 pounds at my height, that is considered obese. So I went from a state of being obese to now just very overweight, technically for my body weight. But 200 pounds feels much better to me. I miss being 214, but I have really fallen in love with just how great the detail in my shoulders and my upper body, and really having just visible abs when you're walking around doing yard work is really nice, and I'm feeling really good about it. So I think I'm going to try to maintain this for a while. Again, to the testosterone only cycle, where I'm at currently is I'm taking, I bumped up, so I'm at 300 milligrams of DECA per week. I'm up to 500 milligrams of Masteron per week. I'm at 84, I bumped the Tren up again. I'm taking 12 milligrams of Tren Ace per day, which comes out to, I think, 84 milligrams of Tren Ace per week. I went from 10 milligrams per day to 12 milligrams per day, and for 3 consecutive days, I was feeling that shit again. I know a lot of people do not understand that. One of the reasons I've been walking so much the last few days is because just coming up another 2 milligrams per day of Tren Ace gives me enough energy that I feel uncomfortable if I sit still for long periods of time. I was in here journaling the other night and trying to listen to music, and it was like 10:30 at night. I went and told my wife, I was like, I gotta go for a walk. I can't take it anymore. And so like when I have all this pent up energy and I'm sitting still, it starts to create like a mental, it starts to make me feel bad mentally. It's almost like a weight, or I don't know how to express it. I just start to feel really like oppressed. I don't know. And then if I get out and move around and burn off some of that excess energy, then I feel way better. So when I went out and like walked 1.25 miles, listened to music, came back in, I was good. So now that I've been stable on 84 milligrams, that 12 milligrams of Tren Ace per day, I'm back to feeling normal again. I do feel better, like more amped up than I was at 70. And so we'll see if that goes up again or not. So 84 milligrams of Tren Ace per week, 500 milligrams of Masteron E per week, 300 milligrams of nandrolone decanoate per week, and I'm up to 75 milligrams of Proviron per day. So I'm taking 25 milligrams of Proviron 3 times a day currently. I really love Proviron. I feel like Proviron I've been talking to my buddy Kavalser again about this cycle. He has had a lot of interest in following what's going on in my body in the absence of testosterone, in the absence of any of a significant aromatase expression drug. So obviously nandrolone aromatizes, HCG aromatizes, but what we found out from my blood work is that very little of either of those components is aromatizing, because my estradiol level was still very low, even on 0.1 milligrams of estradiol valerate every other day. I have been now for a couple of weeks maybe at 0.15 milligrams of estradiol valerate every 2.5 days. Every 2.5 days is what I'm taking. And that makes me feel like I'm in the sweet spot psychologically, sexually. I'm not crying a lot. Like, I don't have signs of excess emotionality, but I'm capable of being emotional, which is a huge departure from what it was like when my estrogen was crashed. When my estrogen was crashed, I do not think, maybe losing my daughter or wife, maybe. I mean, that's a terrible thing to admit. Like, maybe that I would have shed a tear. When I crashed my estrogen into the toilet, that was about as subhuman as I have ever felt. It is a horrible, horrible, horrible way to live. And that's the thing, that this is the whole reason that I decided to do this experiment, to take control of my estrogen, because I've said it a million times. Crashed E2 feels absolutely terrible. High E2 breaks your D game. It makes you cry cat videos. It makes the rest of your hormones not work well. It's also a miserable way to live life. Admittedly, if I had to choose one of the two, I would rather be high than low. Being low is just a shit sandwich all the way around. And so right now, I should be, based on my calculator, somewhere in about the 25 to 28 picogram per milliliter range on estradiol. And that has me feeling 99% good. The 1% is that my D game is very functional, but I don't feel like it's superhuman right now. So I'm capable of having adult interaction every single night. I'm probably going to have it twice today, and I actually feel like I'm going to be perfectly functional the second time. There has been a couple of times, I guess there was one other day where we had sex twice in one day. But if I'm being totally honest, my D game it doesn't feel superhuman, which is what I want. It feels human. It feels like, things can break it. Like, things can cause me to lose activity. I'm able to get it right back up. But what I want is something unnatural. What I want is a state where I stay completely rigid in an action for as long as is necessary, through any kind of variables, through anything. So, like, for example, this is probably more information you guys want, but like, for example, let's say my wife and I are watching adult films while she's engaged in her own personal adult behavior. And sometimes this goes on for a protracted period of time. So she may go through an entire 30-minute video without having finished the act yet. And so I can be in the game for the entire 30 minutes of this playtime. But then if I start to fumble around trying to pick a second video to watch, then I start to flag out, which is totally reasonable, right? Like, that's totally normal, that if you get into like a mental space of, okay, let me search through our list, let me find this, like, this is a mental activity. There's nothing arousing about that. And so I'll start to flag out. Then the second we get back into another video, things get back into action, then I'm right back in business again. So this is a perfectly reasonable way for my body to be reacting. It's certainly not a sign that there's anything wrong with my particular hormone cocktail at this time. But what I want is superhuman D game, to where during that transition period where I may be trying to find another video, I am at full staff the entire time. I want there to be nothing that could cause variation. So if we have to fumble around to change positions, I don't want there to be any reduction in rigidity during the transition. I want superhuman levels of D game. I want to be able to maintain 100% rigidity through any variables for an hour and a half minimum every single day, including all of the total playtime and everything. At 44 years old, I think that this is asking a lot. So I don't want to suggest that there's anything wrong with this protocol. It is allowing me to have full functionality at all times. But that's not good enough for me, guys. I've got to find a way to get to superhuman D game, which is one of the reasons that I am now up to 500 milligrams of Masteron. I'm trying to figure out like how much steroids do I have to take to get superhuman D game while having perfectly level estradiol levels. That is the objective here. I'm going to try to find the porn star cocktail so that you guys can all emulate it if you should desire. Of course, you shouldn't break any laws, and this is not medical advice. But that's basically where I'm at. So everything is functioning, like I would say, 99% perfect. There's that one little extra percentage that I need to try to find a way to replicate. And again, at my age, maybe that's not in the cards. I told my wife the other day, I was like, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world if we have to do it only like 6 times or maybe even 5 times a week. Because if I take a day off, then all of the rigidity and the drive and everything comes roaring back. When you go every single day for say 3 consecutive weeks, like things are not like, you're not as fully pumped, about anything as you could be. And usually all it takes is one day off and man, it's back in action. And again, this is perfectly reasonable. I think even maybe exceptional for a 44-year-old male. I don't give a shit. I don't want to behave like a 44-year-old male. I want to behave like a god, which is the point of doing all of this, is to achieve godlike status. So if you are trying to achieve godlike status, thus far, this particular cycle of having no testosterone, decamasteron, HCG, proviron is working in every way, shape, and form. I'm not experiencing any signs of low T in the absence of real bioidentical testosterone. I'm not experiencing any signs of low DHT as it pertains to bioidentical DHT. Kowalski and I have been talking back and forth. I'm trying to wrap my head around, and I haven't fully gotten there yet, why proviron won't replace DHT. I think the point that he's tried to make is that there are receptors in 5-alpha reductase like laden tissues. So tissues that express 5-alpha reductase might not be activated in the same way by something like Masteron or proviron as they would be by pure DHT. I'm open to this. But my question for him, or for anybody who studies this, is why do you still get side effects? So like, for example, my wife takes primobolan. And DHT, 5-alpha reductase, is supposed to be active in the sebaceous glands. So when she takes primobolan, she gets really bad acne. So like, why would the primobolan act like DHT in the sebaceous glands if it's not DHT? Is there any evidence that proviron or Masteron or primobolan has no activity in the prostate? Which is a tissue that is very highly reactive for 5-alpha reductase. So far, I'm not experiencing that. Another thing that was mentioned is the aromatase pathway. So there's tissues, or there is, I forget what Kowalski says, I think it's like something on the surface of the cells, that if you have estradiol valerate, if you're injecting exogenous estrogen and you're not taking advantage of the aromatase pathway, there could be some lack of activity in certain tissues or cells. Please, Kowalski, enlighten all of us if you can in the comments on both of these, if you would. That would be great. What are you potentially missing if you don't have bioidentical DHT? And what are you potentially missing if you don't have a substantial substrate for aromatase? Because that, I think, is all we have left to determine with this cycle. long term running this cycle with apparently little to no aromatase activity and no bioidentical DHT, since there's no testosterone, what, if any, are the long-term side effects to that? So far, the side effects have not been loss of muscularity, loss of strength, loss of performance, loss of libido. None of those things have happened. Maybe I'll start getting less body hair without any bioidentical DHT. But if that's the case, then that would be great. Like, I would love it if I found out that by having no testosterone in my system and only using DHT derivatives, that all of this excess body hair that I've been growing, on all these 500 milligram test cycles starts falling out. That would be a godsend. And again, I think that would be revolutionary for the bodybuilding community. If we could find out that by taking out a 5-alpha reductase drug, if you don't have 5-alpha reductase going on, then you have substantially less or no body hair. That would be another significant pro to why you might want to use no testosterone in your cycle, replace the estradiol exogenously, and then use only DHT derivatives that possibly don't cause body hair growth to facilitate the rest of your functionality. It should also mean that I would have no male pattern balding. In the absence of bioidentical DHT, I should have no male pattern balding. I actually watched a little clip from John Jewett, who I usually love to hate on, and he said that Masteron does not cause hair loss. Primobolan does not cause hair loss because neither of them are true bioidentical DHT. That's one of the bro science things the guys love to say, is that Masteron will knock the hair off your head. Well, it shouldn't. If only bioidentical DHT acts in 5-alpha reductase tissue, then Masteron should be totally hair safe, and that is the claim that John Jewett is now making. So I would love to hear, I know there's going to be a whole bunch of guys who are going to jump in the comments, you're going to be like, oh my God, bro, Masteron was making my hair fall out like crazy. My wife can tell you that can be misleading. She got on Primobolan and she was convinced in the early going it was knocking the fucking hair off of her head. But she stayed the course and the hair reduction stopped. Being on Primobolan has not caused her to excessively grow body hair the way that testosterone did. It is remarkable, the difference. A tiny drop of testosterone was literally turning my wife into a man. Overnight, she was shaving twice a day to keep the hair from being like tearing me apart, okay? It was excessive hair growth. She takes the Primobolan, does not have any of these issues. I'm not saying that, I'm not speaking for her that there's no extra hair growth. I think she'd say that there is, but it's certainly nowhere near the ballpark of what actual testosterone, which obviously was 5-alpha reducing into DHT, was causing. So again, please, everybody crowd into the comments. Yes, what do you have?
I was going to say, I think it's just like the hair on my head, that it seemed like it started with a little bit of extra body hair growth in the beginning, and then it stopped. Same thing with my voice.
Yeah. So she thought she noticed a little bit of voice change, a little bit of downstairs sensitivity, a little bit of excess hair growth when she started the Primo, but it either stopped, receded, or something. It certainly did not continue to get progressively worse, which was not the case with testosterone. It was getting progressively worse with testosterone. So there seems to be some clear consensus there. My camera's about to run out. I don't have to recut this. So as always, thank you for watching. Please comment all of your hate and disagreement and doubt and worry and whatever in the comment section below, and we'll see you on the next one.